Alright, what's up everybody? Welcome back to the Zim's Video Journal, episode 43. I hope I got that right. I'm not sure. I have a few things to talk about. 3 things, 4 things. Let's start with WOTS podcast version, what was it, 14? I can't remember, but yeah, I think it was 14. With Aaron Roden of the Arock podcast. Super awesome to have him on. The biggest thing that I remember taking away from that podcast was it was the most nervous I've been since starting, because he is a podcaster as well, and he's better. He's more of a traditional podcast interviewer type that you could tell just the way he talks is he's more extroverted personality and more outgoing and more like just has that conversation or that kind of way that is actually pretty hard for me. And it's like I have that way a little bit, but I'm naturally introverted person, and so it's just there's a different dynamic. So I was pretty nervous interviewing him, because it's like I'm doing what he does and I feel like he's kind of better at it. So that little voice in your head wondering if there's like a judgment going on, and if I'm doing right, it's like, as a musician, if you're playing an instrument in front of somebody else that plays your instrument better than you, it can be intimidating sometimes. So there was a little factor of that in there. But it was, overall, I think it was a decent conversation. I don't think it was one of my best ones. But I think it was good. There was some good, seeing the perspective. But the one thing I took away most from it, and I've already talked about it a little bit in previous video journals, one thing I took away most was it dawned on me that idea of, from his perspective, the music scene is thriving really well, and like people like in a scene in a place like an institution like KXP, it's really good support for that. And I guess, it realized like, it depends on where you're looking at it from. And what I realized, like I said before, is that the KXP supports the indie rock scene, is what they support, and they do a good job of that. But they don't support the entire music scene, and they don't have to. I mean, like I've said before, I feel it's unfortunate that they don't they don't have more. I don't know. Because everybody wants to get played on KXP. All styles of music want to get played on KXP because they know that's the most likely place that has the biggest reach that any kind of independent music could get played. However, if you're not the right style, if you're not what KXP wants to play, which is mostly indie rock, then you're not gonna see a lot of play. So, and it's just what it is. So anyways, but it dawned on me, like talking to Aaron, like, his podcast is supporting indie rock more than other genres, a little bit of other genres, but mostly the same wedge of music that KXP supports. And so if that's what you're into, then, and that's what you're looking for, and you see that, then yeah, then KXP is a great support for that. So it's just interesting to dawn on me that that's what KXP is good for. It's good for indie rock. It's not good for the whole scene. It's not for everything that's going on in Seattle. It's good for one particular slice of what's going on in Seattle. So it just makes me want to use this Word on the Street podcast as a vehicle to get more voices out there. I really want people to see what else is going out there. One of the things I've taken to doing a little bit more lately is, posting on Facebook the shows that I would go to if I could, like on Saturday night I was home with my kids, so I couldn't get out to go any shows, but there was a bunch of really great shows that I would highly recommend seeing. So I just, I do all the tagging, try to get as much reach as I can out of them, and just kind of push it out there, say, hey people, here's some good music, go check it out. I went out on Friday night to the Jet up in Mill Creek area and saw Mother of Pearl, local band, and another band, and Blake Lewis from he had a band. Basically, it was Mother of Pearl without their lead singer Krista Wells. Played a backup band for Blake, and it was really both sets were really good. But what occurred to me while watching Mother of Pearl specifically was there's talking about the culture of the Seattle music scene. One of the big things that happens around this scene is there's a lot of musicians who play in multiple bands, and I personally don't think that's the best. I mean, you do what you want to do what you want to do. It's really the important thing. But and if you look at it from a certain perspective of, because there's so many band members playing in multiple bands, how many of those band members, like, is that their primary band? Like, I think in Mother of Pearl as an example of this, there's like a couple of those members that's their primary band, but there's a handful of members where it's not their primary band. And what I think, like, would be beneficial, so there's a two parts to this. What would be beneficial for a band like Mother of Pearl is to go tour, to get out of town and play, take a week tour somewhere and play every night for a week, because they're like so close to having this super duper tight awesome sound, but because they play like most Seattle bands every couple weeks, it's a different thing. It's like if you can play every night for a while, then you just become so much better. And I could see Mother of Pearl specifically benefiting from that type of treatment. But it got me thinking about, well, a lot of these players play in multiple bands, and it would probably be very hard to say they can't play with their other bands for X amount of time, which, makes me think about how good it is for the scene to have so much cross membership of music. I mean, there's a ton of great music, obviously, but it's all stuck in Seattle. And what the idea that I realize is, I'm starting to more and more I hear about people talking, the more conversations I have, this idea of touring is something that I'm dying to do. I want to do it so bad. I want to take theZim's and Arock and go on tour and play. I would love, honestly, blue sky type of ideas. I want to do it for a month long tour and just hit it. Do that multiple times a year. But that's not a reality for me right now. That I don't feel like is a reality. I mean, I've thinking a lot about it lately, and where I am in life, it's like the path my life has taken is been like, I work a day job because I want to support a place where I can have my kids, and then they go to private schools, so I want to be able to support them that way as well, paying for the tuition that I'm required to pay for, and just making that transition, like making that leap of faith, or that transition from making the amount of money I am right now to possibly not making nearly that much. I don't see that as a reality that I would be able to live with. And it's, it is what it is. And, but maybe, I don't know, I was thinking about it, maybe because I don't feel like I can do that, that's why I want to do it so bad. One of those things you want what you can't have kind of things. I mean, maybe some point in my life I will be able to get out there and do that. Another thing I wanted to talk about, I watched the movie Whiplash, about with, J.K. Simmons and Miles Teller. And I personally thought it was an amazing movie, and it totally moved me. I heard on Facebook when it was closer to when it released, I saw some posts about this idea, the idea of how people didn't feel like that was a reality of that kind of way of teaching, and I think it is a reality. I think people do get that way about music and how they try to teach people about music. And they also were complaining about like the technical ability of Miles Teller on the drums and what he did. And I watch, I love movies, and I watch a lot, and my favorite movies tend to be, some of my favorite movies are anything, if there's music in the movie, I'm already gonna like it before I even see it. And so I watch a lot of movies with music like that are about the music, because I just love it. Like, my favorite movie of all time is That Thing You Do. Is it still? No, I think I might have bumped up The Cradle Will Rock. Not The Hand That Rocks the Cradle, but The Cradle Will Rock. It's really cool. It's an ensemble cast, bunch of famous actors that you know. But anyways, I'll not talk about that right now. Just get back to Whiplash. The one thing that people complained about was the technical ability of the playing. And because I watch a lot of music, there's a lot of those movies out there that they have somebody that's supposed to be a musician that you can clearly tell they're not a musician. They not even holding the instrument right and all this kind of stuff. But I don't. That was not the case for what happened in Whiplash. I felt like they did it. They did a good enough job. I couldn't tell. I mean, I'm not a drummer, so I mean that's part of it. But I personally couldn't tell. It just fit. It fit for me. It worked. But I'm gonna see if I can put into words what that movie did for me. And I think a lot of people get caught up, or could get caught up in the idea of that, J.K. Simmons' character being a tyrannical music instructor and doing it in the way that is not politically correct at all anymore, and just kind of like way most people wouldn't see as right. And what I took away from the movie was, if you put that idea, the idea of his character, into like an archetypal thing, into a subconscious level of what it means to be a musician, I think it's important to have that kind of drive and desire and effect for yourself, a self-manifested effect of that, of challenging yourself to be better, of doing that, like not being complacent and saying, what can I do to get better? And the way I see it was like, the play between the characters on the screen wasn't necessarily a literal translation of something. I see it as a figurative, like both those characters were two parts of a musician, in a sense, of an artist. And it's like, because of the way that the movie ended, it's like they kind of run the movie up to a point where it feels like the main character is going to have some kind of mental break, right? But the way they ended the movie, it's like he conquered it, the way I interpret it, because they left it kind of open, where they just kind of, he played an amazing solo, and he kind of conquered something. And I see it as, you don't know what happened next. You could take it, you can say like, he did that, but then he, had a total mental break after, or he conquered it. He conquered whatever demon that was, and he's now going on to the next level. And that's the way I interpreted it, because it's much more fun that way for starters. But it makes sense to me. It's like when you're working on your craft, your art, or whatever it is, to challenge yourself in that way and to always try to improve and try to, I don't feel like I'm phrasing this quite the right way, but I hope you get the idea I'm trying to say. It's just like, think of the movie, think of those characters as a subconscious thing. It's like, what do you do in adversity? What do you do when you make a mistake? Do you give in and just say, oh, I can't do it? Or do you learn from that mistake and try to get better and push yourself? And it's like, from watching the movie, one of the things that I came away with personally was the desire to play my saxophone a lot more again. And I've been practicing more, and I realized that I want to do more music in my life. I want more music in my life. I want to play more. And the way the Zim and Arock is set up, because we're original music kind of band, and because of what I just mentioned, the limitations of not being able to tour and do a lot of things like that, we're limited to the amount of times we can play around the city and around the I-5 corridor and stuff. And on top of that, trying to get gigs, which, if anybody out there wants to book the Zim and Arock, we're open after March, so get at us, because we'd love to get a show going with you or whoever. So let's talk about it. But I want to play more in general, and I'm good. When I left off playing saxophone, I left out at a place that I felt really good. I could solo. I could feel comfortable playing with a variety of different kind of people, and I decided I want to try to get back to that place and beyond. And I feel like, because I've grown as a person and as a musician, I will be able to go beyond where I left off. So it's just a matter of practicing. And I have, these days, my tolerance for practicing has gone so much up from where it used to be. Like, it took me till now to realize what it means. I've always been a kind of late bloomer idea, and this idea of playing the saxophone and practicing and what I need to practice and what it means makes much more sense now than it did 10 years ago or 20 years ago when I started. And so I'm just going to try, I'm doing it. I'm practicing as much as I can, doing my scales, doing all the things, and seeing where it leads. Because I want to play more music, and I think saxophone, if I could get to a place, because I can go to more jam type nights, and maybe, I don't know, we'll see what manifests from playing more saxophone. That's, I can do on my own, and it won't necessarily be a commitment to another band or anything. It'll just be doing my own thing. So expect a lot more saxophone coming out of the Zim the next little while. I think that's all there might have been something else I wanted to say, but I can't remember. Be sure this weekend, March 14th, my actual birthday, we're playing down in Olympia at the 4th Ave. We're on First Saturday night. And not sure the exact time, but I'll put the link to the event page in the description of this video, so check it out. We're on First, like I said, and if you're there, well, I'm not sure what time the show starts, but if you're there when the show starts or earlier, wearing one of our shirts, this is the solo, the two robots. I don't have the picture. One of our shirts there, or our Peace and Love. If you go, I'll put the link to our merch website as well. If you're wearing one of our shirts, I will pay your cover. So just get there before the show. I'll tell the door guy that I'm paying anybody's cover that wears one of our shirts. And if you're from Seattle and want to come down, it's my birthday, so let's caravan down. Let's do it. Let's do it up. It'll be fun. We're gonna rock the house, as always. Yeah, I think so. Do that thing as well. I still got tickets for March 27th at the bendbow room in West Seattle. So buy a ticket from me. They're $10. Get at me, send me a message, and I'll get back to you, and we'll get you a ticket. Come on down. It's a battle of bands at the bendbow room in West Seattle. It should be a great time. Really excited for it. But so those are our last two shows until we book some more. We don't have any more on the books. Well, we have one in June. That's a ways out. So, but anyways, thanks for watching. This is Zim. I'm in the Closet Studio. Video journal, episode 43. Alright, do that thing. Subscribe to this. All that stuff. Love you. Peace out.